circumstances, may we first of all place on the overhead projector the original so that those looking at the screens can see it in its original language, and then put the English translation on after that. Elijah. Provided with the exhibit number.
Prosecution Exhibit 24.
So if we could first of all, Usher, please just lay on the overhead projector the original Cyrillic language version, please. And that's the English. Could you put the Cyrillic language version on first?
Sure.
There, just for a few seconds. And then if we could put the English version on, and if you could place the Cyrillic version before the witness. Mr. Barani, you have a version there in Cyrillic. We have an English draft translation. If you follow, please, in the Cyrillic, does the document say words roughly to this effect? And if this hasn't reached the interpretation booth, I'm very sorry, in which case it should do. Have we got any more copies? My oversight entirely. I think perhaps the better course would be if the usher would now replace the Cyrillic version onto the Elmo, the overhead projector. And I read the draft translation. I'll ask the witness to follow it on the screen. Does the document read roughly to the following effect? By signing this declaration, I declare that I fully accept and will adhere to the decision on taking interim measures for the protection of self-government rights and public property with regards to employer, the 30 Yulee Medical Center, Basic Organization of Associated Labor, Hospital Service, Basic Organization of Associated Labor, Primary Care at Work Unit, Joint Service in Kozovska Mitrovica, reached at the People's Assembly of the Republic of Serbia at the session held on 24th October 1991. I will also adhere to decisions taken by interim measures in all things. Next paragraph. I also declare that I accept that I will adhere to the provisions of the legal system of Republic of Serbia, and especially the law on employment under special circumstances, law on territorial organization, law on the use of language and alphabet, and the other laws with regards to established territorial integrity and sovereignty of my Republic of Serbia, where I live and work. That passage then followed by the note, unjustified failure to sign this statement implies liability pursuant to the provision of Article 8, Paragraph 1, Section 4 of the Law on Employment under Special Circumstances. What I've read in English, broadly match what you are able to read in the original Cyrillic?
Po në rregull.
Yes, it's in order.
I move you on, please, to 1993. You are now already and continuing in your role as chairman of the Council for Defence of Human Rights.
Në 15
On
gusht
the 15th of August 1993,
mbi 250
more than
Polic Serb
250 Serbian policemen
shkojnë në fshatin
went
e vetëm
to the only
shqiptar të
Albanian
komunës së
village
Leposavicit të
in
Zubin Potokut
Leposavic
në fshatin
municipality,
Qaber,
to the village of
ku e rrethojnë
Chaba
fshatin.
in Zubin Potok municipality, where they surrounded the village.
Let me interrupt you there for a minute. It's always important for the judges to know whether what you're about to tell them is first-hand, coming from your own knowledge, or coming from other people. In relation to the incident that you're about to speak of, did you see this yourself, or did you learn of it from others?
Policinë duke u tërhekur pas bastisjes së fshatit dhe arrestimit të 7 shqiptarëve të fshatit
The
Qaber,
Albanians,
I kom parë vetë,
I
dhe
saw
menjëherë
I
pas
saw the
tërhekjes
police
së
themselves after
policistë
their
në kom hyrë
withdrawal
aty
from the
dhe
village,
kom incizime me videokamerë
when they
dhe
had arrested 7 Albanians, and I have
fotografitë
video
fotografuara me
recordings and
fotoaparat.
photographs taken with a camera.
Mr. Knight, unless it's going to assist us, I think we ought to approach a bit more closely to the matters we're dealing with, rather than have a great deal of detail. I have in mind, of course, criticism of the cross-examination of the accused about peripheral matters.
Conduct of parties in the period of the 1990 leading up to 1999 is materially relied on. But I'll move in this particular village to what happened later in 1999, because the same village was that the subject of activity in March of 1999.
Në mars të vitit 99,
In March
njëjti fshat
1999, the same village
është rrethuar nga
was surrounded
policë e civil
by
serb,
Serbian policemen and
civilët kanë
civilians.
qenë të fshatrave për rreth,
The civilians
pasi
were
që
from
ky
the
fshat
surrounding villages, because this village
rreth e përqar ka
is
fshatra serbe
surrounded by
dhe
Serbian
janë
villages,
dëbuar me dhunë të gjithë
and all
banorët e
the
këtij fshati.
inhabitants of this village were forcibly expelled.
Janë përshkatuar 14 prej tyre
14 of them were shot,
dhe 4 konsiderohen
and
ende si të
4
zhdukur.
are still considered
Janë
missing.
djeg shtëpitë në tërësi
The houses were entirely
dhe pas një
burned,
kohe
and after a
janë rrafshuar
time,
me bunduzher të
they
gjitha
were
shtëpitë.
flattened.
Edhe
All
për
the
të
houses
kom
were
dëshmi,
flattened
kom
with
fotografi dhe
bulldozers, and I
incizim me
have evidence
videokamerë.
with photographs and video recordings of these things.
Going back, having dealt with that village comprehensively, going back 1 year to, the dates are inconsistent, and I think it's the second date, but we'll check, to 1998. Were there some deaths occurring in villages in Mitrovica of which you can tell us? If yes, what was the month?
E kom të pakjartë këtë pyetjen, më fal.
I don't have, the question is not clear to me.
Very well.
I'm sorry.
In 1998, were there some deaths of Albanians in villages in Mitrovica?
Me 15, 16 dhe 17
On the
shtator
15th,
98
16th and 17th of September 1998,
Ushtria, policia serbe
The
ndërmorën një
Serbian
ofenziv
police
në
and
fshatrat e
army
Shalës së Mitrovicës,
undertook an offensive in the
Ku me
villages
këtë
of
rast
Shala near Mitrovica
vranë 16
when they
shqiptar
killed 16 Albanians
pa dallim gjinie.
of both sexes
Të buën shumësisht
and
prej shtëpive
expelled many from their homes
dhe pjesërisht dogjen
and partly
12 fshatra.
burned 12 villages.
Can we just have a look, please, at the appropriate maps for this witness? One will be map 5 of Exhibit 4, and then there's the Mitrovica town map itself, which is Exhibit 8. So those can go before the witness. Can the witness see, please, map 5 of Exhibit 4? And can you point out, you can see it on the map, pointing out to the overhead projector. On your left, the village of Shala to which you've referred.
Më falë, nuk është fshati I Shala,
And so it's not a
po
village called
fshatrat e
Shala,
Shalës.
but the villages of
Shala
Shala.
është si region,
Shala is a kind of
I
area,
disa fshatrave.
including several villages.
Can you, with a pointer that the usher will give you, point out where it is on the map, if we can see it? It is indicating the area to the northeast of the town of Mitrovica. Thank you very much.
Po saksisht në këtë
Precisely,
dhe në Stanterg
At this
janë të
place
vrarë
in
4
Stantrug,
shqiptar.
4 Albanians were killed.
Pastaj në tjera fshatra në Kaçandol
And in these
janë
other
6
villages,
dhe
6
në
in
disa fshatra në
Kachandol,
Albani.
and
Fshati Kaçandol është këtu.
single murders in other villages. Kachandol is up here.
I'd like to take your seat again, please. Coming then to March of 1999, and the court will find that there's one passage on the very last page of the summary that is out of order, but I'll deal with it so that I can deal with matters chronologically. On the 5th to 7th of March, an incident involving the Yashari family in the municipality of Skenderaj.
Më falë, nuk është familja Shari, por është familja Jashari nga prekazi I poshtën
Sorry,
I Skenderajt.
It's not the Yashari family, it's the Yashari family from Prekaz I Poshtem in the municipality of Skenderaj.
Tell us about that, please.
Po, prej 5 deri më 7 mars
From 5th to 7th
Në
March
fshatin Prekaz
1999
të
in the village of
Poshtëm të
Prekaz I
Skenderajt,
Poshtem in Skenderaj municipality,
ushtria dhe policia
the
serbe
Serbian police
vranë
and army
58
killed
shqiptarë të këtij
58
fshati,
Albanians from this
20
village,
prej tyre
20 of them
antar të
members
familjes së
of
Shaban
the-
Murat Jasharit.
the family of Shaban
Njëkohësisht ata
Yashari.
dogjen të
At the
gjitha
same time,
shtëpitë
they burned all the houses
Dhe në fund
and
i
in the
tërhoqën
end
të gjithat kufomat ku i dërguan në
took away
Prishtinë
all the
për t'i
bodies
kthyer pastaj
to
pas datës
Pristina,
10 në
returning
Skenderaj.
them to Skenderaj after the 10th.
What did you see of this directly yourself?
Unë vetë
I
kam
myself
po
saw
tym,
smoke.
kam po tanksat duke lëvizur
I saw
prej fabrikës
tanks
së municionit
moving from the munitions
në drejtim të
factory
shtëpive të
towards
Shaban Murat Jasharit
the
dhe
house of
Anasjelta.
Shaban Murat
Po ashtu kam
Yashari,
dëgjuar
and in
dhe
the opposite
detonime të rënda
direction. I
dhe të shtëna
also
nga armë të
heard
ndryshme.
explosions and shots from various kinds of weapons.
Of the vehicles that you saw, was there one that you think you may be able to identify from a photograph?
Po sigurisht se po.
Of course, yes.
May the witness please see Court Exhibit 17, both sheets, all three sheets. Time and look at the photographs before you and tell us which, if any, vehicles you saw engaged on this occasion. And then we'll place it on the overhead projector.
Ishte automjeti
It was vehicle
te fotografi që kam para numër 6.
in photograph number 6. That was what I saw.
Do të thonë ngjajshëm.
That is similar.
Will that be placed on the overhead projector? Figure 6 identifies the top right-hand photograph. Was your view of these events by unaided eyes, or were you using some equipment?
E kom parë me sytë e mi,
I saw
po
with my own
edhe me
eyes
durbi.
and through binoculars.
How far away were you from the events that you described?
Kom qenë dikun prej
I
2
was
dhe në 3
about
kilometra
2
ashtu.
to 3
Por kem qenë
kilometers
kodër në kodër,
away.
në vija ajrore ka pas shumë më pak.
But I was on a hill, and as the crow flies, it was closer.
Move on to the middle of March and the marketplace in Mitrovica. Tell us please about an event there, the date and what happened.
Po.
Yes.
Në 13 mars,
On
ora 14:20
13th
pas
March
dite,
at 2:30
në
in the
tregun e
afternoon
Mitrovicës,
at the Mitrovica
që njëkohësisht
market.
ishte edhe ditë tregu, ditë e shtunë,
It was also Saturday, which is market day.
ushtria apo policia nuk dihet, cilë
The
serbe,
army or the police, we don't know which,
kanë hedhur 3 granata
threw
në mes të tregut.
3 bombs in the middle of the market.
May the witness have before him on the overhead projector the Mitrovica town map, Exhibit 8, please. You point out on the overhead projector from your seated position where the marketplace is.
Po.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Almost dead center of the plan.
Mu këtu në këtë udhkryq, në të
Exactly
djathtë
here
është
at this
tregu i gjelbër të
crossroads
Mitrovicës.
on the right, that is where the Mitrovica vegetable market is.
What was the result of the bombs that you referred to?
Në këtë rast, kanë
On this
vdekur
occasion,
7 persona,
7 people died,
janë plagosur 90,
and
mbi 90 të tjerë,
more than 90
por të
were
mundshme që do të
wounded,
ketë pasur edhe më shumë, po
and it's possible that
për
there
të
were
gjithë
more.
nuk kam pas evidencë.
But I
Për
didn't
këta
have
kam
deep
emrin mbi emër.
evidence about them all, but these I have their first and last names.
Ku 6 prej të
And
plagosurve
6 of the wounded
sot e asoj dite kanë mbetur
have remained
pa dy komt, përkatësisht pa njërin kom.
either without both
Të me thonë
legs or
invalid.
without one leg and are permanently disabled.
Moving on, please. Latif Berisha. What position did he hold in the early part of 99?
Latif Berisha në vitin 1999
In
ishte
1999,
kryetar i
Latif
lidhjes demokratike
Berisha was the
Dega në
chairman
Mitrovic
of
dhe
the
profesor
Democratic
i
League of
Universitetit të
Kosovo,
Kosovës.
its Mitrovica branch, and a professor at the University of Pristina.
What happened to him?
Me 24 mars,
On 24th of
pas
March,
orës 23:30,
after 11:30 at
i
night,
hynë në shtëpi brenda derisa ishte në fjetën në dhomën e fjetjes
while he was sleeping at home
Serb të
in
maskuar
bed, Serb
dhe
masked
e
Serbs
nxjerrin
entered
nga
his
dhoma
home
e qesin
and
para
took
derës
him
të
out
shtëpisë
of his
ku
room
e
and put him
pushkatojnë.
in front of his front door, where they shot him.
We turn next to the President of the Assembly of Kosovo's Independent Trade Unions. Who was that at the time?
Ai ka qenë Agim Hajrizi,
This was Agim
të cilin
Haririzi.
po atë natë, me
Who-
24
On the
mars,
same night of 24th of March,
njerëz të maskuar Serb i kanë hyrë mbrëm,
Serbian masked men entered
ku e kanë pushkatuar mbrëm në
and
shtëpi
shot him in his own
Agimin,
home
nënën e tij dhe
as well as his
djalin
mother
11 vjeçar.
and his 11-year-old son.
Following events that start or develop at this part of March of 1999, you stay in Kosovo, decide to do so.
Po unë mbeta në Mitrovic.
Yes, I stayed in Mitrovica.
Was it possible for you to stay in Mitrovica openly, or did you have to take care to hide your presence from others?
Jo të hapur, nuk ka pas mundësi të
Not
qëndrojmë.
openly, it was
por
impossible to stay
Shtëpi pas
openly,
shtëpie të mshef dhe të
but
përcjell ngjarjet se
went
çfarë ndodh me
from house
popullatën
to
e
house,
Mitrovicës.
hiding and keeping track of what was happening to the population of Mitrovica.
do this in part because of your commitment to your position, human rights organization of which you were an officer?
Po gjithsesi.
Yes, of course.
Meanwhile, your family, your extended family, where were they?
Me 27 mars,
On the 27th of
në orë të
March,
mbrëmjes,
in the evening,
e kom thirrni kushërit timin dhe
I
i ka marrë fëmijët e mi
called a cousin of mine and he took my
në
children
traktor, i ka dërguar në
and he took them
një pyll afër Mitrovicës i
By tractor
quajtur Proj i Sokolit
to a place near
U kanë
Mitrovica
qëndruar
called the Stream of
deri me
Sokoli,
20 qershor
and they stayed there
1999.
until 20th of June 1999.
Did you visit them there yourself from time to time?
Ko pas kohë kur ishin
From
rrugë të
time to
lira,
time, when the
i kam
roads
vizitu.
were open, I visited them.
Can we now move then to the village of Bayer, or the neighborhood of Bayer in Mitrovica? Can we look at the same exhibit 8? And perhaps you'll point out where that, in fact, shown on the map, where it is on the map, so we just see it.
Me falin, nuk është zonë, po është lagja
Excuse me, it's not an area,
e
it's a
Mitrovicës.
neighborhood of Mitrovica.
Thank you. And we can see it, in fact, if you just look at the map on your left-hand side, we can see it marked, assuming it's correctly marked, towards the bottom of the map, just above the main road running west to east and to the east of the main road running north-south. Thank you. What happened in this area on the 25th of March?
me datën 25
On
mars,
25th of March,
ushtria serbe, të cilë
Serbian army,
po ashtu edhe kazermën e kanë mu në këtë lagj
who have also
dhe
their barracks there in this
depot
neighborhood and depots,
që lidhen me fshatin Frashër,
which are connected to Frasher
kanë hy
village,
në shumë shtëpi
entered
të kësaj lagje,
many houses of this
duke shtënë
neighborhood
me armë në
Firing
dritare dhe në përdyr,
to the windows and the doors of the houses,
i kanë dëbuar pjesërisht nga shtëpitë e
they
tyre
partially
shqiptar
expelled Albanians from their
dhe ju
homes
kanë rekomanduar që të nisen
and
për në Shqipëri.
recommended to them to leave for Albania.
The interpretation says they partially expelled Albanians from their homes. Did you intend to say partially expelled, and if so, what did you mean by it? Alternatively, explain whether the expulsion was partial or complete.
Lagja Bajer ka mbi 8.000
This
banor
neighborhood has over 8,000
dhe
inhabitants.
këtë ditë
And
nuk
on
janë
that
dëbuar të
day,
gjithë
not all of them were ousted from their
prej shtëpive të
homes.
tyre, por ko pas kohë
But
deri me
now
27,
and again,
do më thonë brenda
up
3
to the
dite,
27th,
janë
that
dëbuar
is,
të
in
gjithë
a time
për këtë
span of
edhe
3
përmenda
days,
pjesërisht.
everyone
Ditën e
was
parë
expelled.
të
That's why I said
25-it ku
partially
ushtria
on the first day, on
filloi
the
bimin e
25th,
tyre
when
nga
the army
shtëpitë,
started to
përkatësisht
evict them
banesat e
from their
tyre.
homes and their houses.
During this first eviction, where were you initially? In Bayer or elsewhere in Mitrovica?
Unë pjesën dërmuese të kohës
Most of
e kam kaluar
I
në
spent
lagjen Ilirida
in Ilirida
të
neighborhood
Mitrovicës.
of Mitrovica.
Did you go to Bayer yourself?
Me 25, në orët e
On
pasdites,
the 25th,
Ka
in the
ardhur
afternoon,
të të burit dhe
the
veprimtarët
displaced
apo bashkëpunëtorët e mi që kanë qenë në
people
lagjen
and
Bajer
my
dhe më kanë
collaborators
informuar në
came and
zyrën time,
informed me
e
in
cila
my
është
office,
ka qenë
which
në lagjen
used to
Qendra
be situated in the Chandra neighborhood.
dhe atëherë unë kam shku me qëllim që
And
të
then I went
arri të incizoja po
to
fotografoj
see if I
do
could
një
record
rast të
or
dëbimit,
shoot some of the cases of the expulsions,
por ka qenë e pamundur,
but
pasi
it
që
was
ishte
impossible
rrezik
because it was
prej të
very
shtënave.
dangerous.
Unë
Shots
posh
everywhere. I saw
ushtrin
the
duke i
army
të buar me dhunë
forcibly
shqiptarët nga
evicting
shtëpitë
the
e tyre.
Albanians from their homes.
dhe u ktheva në zyrë,
And
bëra
returned to my
informatën,
office
të cilën e
and
kam këtu
wrote a
originalin
report,
e
which
asaj
I
date
have
që është
it
përcjell më
here with
njëherë
me, the
për mjetet
original
e
copy
informimit.
of that report that I submitted to the information outlets.
Mr. Knights, when you come to a convenient moment, please.
Just to conclude this passage, 2 questions. Could the witness look, please, at Exhibit 18, the photograph of uniforms? Are you able to give us some assistance with the uniforms being worn by those who were doing these expulsions? If so, look at the chart, give us the number, we'll place it on the overhead projector.
Fotografia me numër
The
5,
photograph number 5,
And that go on the overhead
edhe
projector.
pse nuk është e qartë,
even though it's not very
Si
clear,
duhet, po ka qenë ngjashme me këtë
but
uniform.
this is uniform that I saw, similar to this that I saw that day.
Much. Second and last question then before the break. You say that you say of your report that it was submitted to the information outlets. Was that a newspaper or something different from a newspaper?
Të gjitha informatat ditore të mia,
All my daily information
gjithsesi të Këshillit për Mbrojtjen e Drejtave dhe Lirive të Njerëzit në Mitrovic,
related
spar janë përcjellur për
to the Human
Këshillin
Rights
Qendror në
Council
Prishtinë,
of Mitrovica.
pastaj
I
për mjetet e
presented them to
informimit, si
Pristina,
është Radio
and
Deutsche
then
Welle,
to
Zëri i
Deutsche
Amerikës
Welle, VOA,
e tjera.
and others.
We'll adjourn now and sit again at 1 o'clock, at 2, I should say, 2:30. Mr. Barani, we're going to adjourn now till 2:30. Would you be back then to continue your evidence? Would you remember during this break, and any others there may be in your evidence, not to speak to anybody about it? And that does include members of the prosecution team. Don't speak to anybody about it until it's over.
All rise for your full of